Welcome to our channel. Today we're discussing the current economic crisis in Sri Lanka that has led to widespread protests, power cuts, shortages of basic necessities, and a state of emergency being declared. The root of the crisis can be attributed to a variety of factors, including the COVID-19 pandemic, a series of deadly bomb attacks in 2019, and poor economic mismanagement by former President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. Join us as we dive deeper into the situation and explore potential solutions to the crisis, including loans offered by the World Bank, India, and the IMF. Sri Lanka is currently facing an economic crisis that has led to widespread protests, power cuts, shortages of basic necessities, and a state of emergency being declared. The root of the crisis can be traced back to a number of factors, including the COVID-19 pandemic, which has severely impacted the country's tourist trade, one of its major sources of foreign currency. Additionally, a series of deadly bomb attacks in 2019 also scared off tourists and further damaged the economy. However, many experts also blame poor economic mismanagement by former President Gotabaya Rajapaksa for the crisis. At the end of its civil war in 2009, Sri Lanka chose to focus on providing goods to its domestic market instead of trying to boost foreign trade. This led to a situation where the country's income from exports remained low, while the bill for imports kept growing. As a result, Sri Lanka now imports $3 billion more than it exports every year and has run out of foreign currency. The situation has been made worse by a lack of fuel for essential services like buses, trains, and medical vehicles. Inflation is running at over 50%, and the government has imposed restrictions on the sale of fuel. Schools have closed and people have been asked to work from home to conserve supplies. In May, Sri Lanka failed to make an interest payment on its foreign debt for the first time in its history, which can damage a country's reputation with investors and make it harder for it to borrow money on international markets. The country owes more than $51 billion to foreign lenders, including $6.5 billion to China, which has begun discussions about restructuring its loans. In an attempt to tackle the crisis, President Rajapaksa resigned and fled to Singapore, leaving Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe as acting president. Wickremesinghe has declared a state of emergency across the country and imposed a curfew in the western province while he tries to stabilize the situation. However, on Wednesday, hundreds of protesters stormed his office, calling for his resignation. The country needs a functioning government to tackle the financial crisis and restore order. The World Bank has agreed to lend Sri Lanka $600 million, and India has offered at least $1.9 billion. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, is discussing a possible $3 billion loan, but it would require a stable government that can raise interest rates and taxes to fund the deal. Wickremesinghe has already announced that the government will print money to pay employees' salaries, but this will likely lead to further price hikes and inflation. He has also suggested that state-owned Sri Lankan airlines could be privatized. The country has also asked Russia and Qatar to supply it with oil at low prices to help reduce the cost of petrol. In conclusion, Sri Lanka is facing a severe economic crisis that has led to widespread protests and a state of emergency being declared. The root of the crisis can be traced back to a number of factors, including the COVID-19 pandemic, poor economic mismanagement, and a lack of foreign currency. The country needs a functioning government to tackle the financial crisis and restore order. The World Bank, India, and the IMF have offered loans, but a stable government is required to raise interest rates and taxes to fund the deal.